Hi guys, this is Maths for Thursday the 4th of March. Yesterday we started looking at the skill of conjecture to help us with problem solving, trying to work out what could be going on and seeing if we agree with that. And today we're going to carry on with that problem solving skill. So for your recap, we're going to go over even and odd numbers because that will really help us out for this lesson. So see if you could write down these two statements and find out the 5 possibilities. Even numbers end in and odd numbers end in. So I'll give you a moment to pause the video and try that. Okay, so even numbers end in 0, 2, 4, 6 or 8. And so odd numbers end in 1, 3, 5, 7 or 9. So it's really important you keep that information with you for this lesson because you're going to need to know which numbers could be even and which numbers could be odd. So some examples of even numbers: 4, 56, 730, they all end in even numbers. They might have odd numbers in there, but that's fine because they end in even numbers and that makes them an even number. Some odd numbers: 9, 83 and 641 because that ends in a 9, that's a 3, that's a 1. There's even numbers in there, but it's about what the numbers end in. If you want to, you could pause the video and you could write your own examples of even and odd numbers. Okay. So just to recap, conjecture was our new word from yesterday. It is like an opinion. It's when you think something and you can give a reason even though you might not have all the information yet. Okay, so to practice conjecture, there's 3 numbers here: 25, 50 and 100. Which number do you think is the odd one out? So pause the video, look closely at those numbers and write down your reasons. Okay, so for this one, it'll be interesting to see what you will put. There is no definite answer for this. It's based on your opinion. So you might think something completely different to what somebody else has thought. So for this, we're interested in what your reasons were. So when you send this in, your teacher will look at the new learning and see which number you chose. But it's not really about the number you chose. It's about the reasons you gave. So for example, you may have said something like, oh, 25 is the odd one out because it doesn't end in a 0 and it's the odd number. So maybe you were thinking like that. Maybe you could have been thinking, oh, well, these ones have even numbers in there. So maybe it could be that. This one has a 2 in there and 2 goes into 10 5 times. That could have been something. Maybe you might have been thinking, well, these both have 5s in. So then this one's the odd one out. Whatever your reason was, we're interested to see. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper. So here there is a circle of numbers, like a ring, and then there's 2, 4, 9 and 1. Look really closely at those numbers. Pause the video. What do you see and what do you notice? Okay, so I've been a little bit cruel here. So looking for patterns and relationships is a great skill, but don't always assume that it will be really obvious and don't always assume that something is going on. So you might have found a relationship between these numbers if you were really looking for it, but sometimes numbers just are there. And sometimes they don't have a relationship and they don't have a pattern going on. Sometimes it can appear completely random. Doesn't mean you can't make connections with the numbers. I can look at 2 and 4 and think, well, they're both even there and these are both odd there. So maybe it's something to do with the position. Maybe it could be something to do with the fact that 1 and 2 come straight after each other, but then these are further apart. Maybe 1 and 2 have a difference of 1 number in between. This has a difference of 5 numbers in between, which is both odd. This has a difference of 8 in between, which is even, and this has a difference of 2 in between, which is even. So maybe you could start looking at the differences. But there could be loads going on, or there could be nothing going on. So it's just one of those things where you look at it and you decide for yourself whether you think there is a relationship at all. Okay, so we're going to use these rings and these circles. Now you can draw these out, or if you have got a printer, you can print them, but it's just as easy to draw. It's up to you. You have to choose 4 numbers from this list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So all single digits, but no zeros. So you choose 4 numbers from that list to put inside the squares so that the difference between joined squares is odd. Only 1 number is allowed in each square. You must use 4 different numbers. What can you say about the sum of each pair of joined squares? Okay, so first of all, I'll show you how we can try this. So I need the difference between joined squares to be odd. So that means the numbers in between. So if I put a 1 in there and I put a 2 in there, well, in between a 1 and a 2, there's only one jump. There's one jump from 1 to 2, so there's a difference of 1. So that is an odd amount. Okay, then I could go for, well, if I put 4 in there, that's a difference of 2 because 3, 4, and that's an even amount, and I want odd in between. So I could go for 5, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's a difference of 3, which is an odd amount. So that could work for me. So pause the video and see if you can try it in a few different ways. There might not just be one answer, you could do it in different ways. Okay, so for this one, rather than going through all the possibilities, because there are quite a few, instead, when you send this in, your teacher will look at your guided practice after they've looked at your new learning to see the options that you found. Okay, for your reply question, what must you do now to make the difference even? And what do you notice about the sum of the pairs now? So, one thing you may have noticed about the sum of the pairs here, if I just finish off a possibility that would work, so I could put 8 in there, and then that would have a difference of 3, that's even, that would have a difference of 7, oh, sorry, odd, and that's odd. So I've done that, that's a working possibility. What can you say about the sum of each pair of joined squares? When it means the sum, it means if you add those together. So I know that it's an odd difference in between, but if I add them now, 1 add 2, that's 3, 2 add 5, that's 7, 5 add, that's 13. So if I add them all, they're odd as well. So it's an odd difference in between, and they're odd if I add them too. Okay. So what must you do to make the difference even? And what do you notice about the sum of the pairs now? So now I want it to be even in between. So if I go for 1, last time I went for 2, which had a difference of 1, which was an odd number. I don't want that. So if I go for 3, then that's 1, 2, 3. So it's got a gap of 2 in between. So then that would be an even difference, if that's making sense to you. And then I could go for 5. Because that would have a gap of 2, which is even, and then I could go for 7. That would have a gap of 2, which is even. And if I add those up this time, 3 add 1 is 4, 5 add 3 is 8, 5 add 7 is 12, and 7 add 1 is 8. I'm noticing that actually when I'm adding them up, it's all even this time. So see if you can try out a few of your own where you're placing numbers in so that if you did a takeaway, it would come out as even, and if you added it, it would come out as even. Okay, so when you've done that, again, your teacher will look at that for you and see all the different possibilities you have got. Okay, final one. Change the ring, so now that there's only 3 squares on each ring, and can you place 3 different numbers in them so that their differences are odd? Then could you have a go and see if you can make the differences even? And what do you notice about the sum of each pair in each case this time? So will anything change if we have 3 squares rather than 4 squares? So if I want to try and make something odd, I could go for 1. I could go for 4, because then that's 2, 3, 4, that's 3 in between. I still want to keep it odd. I could go for 7, that's 3 in between. Then I could explore what's going on between those numbers and if I add them up. If I want to do an even one, I could go for, I could still start on an odd number. And then if I jump to 5, that's got 4 in between. And then if I jump to 9, that's got 4 in between. So then you might notice about what you're doing and what you're using. Excuse me. So see if you can try one where if you add it, it comes out as odd, and if you take it away, it comes out as odd. See if you can try one where if you add it, it comes out as even. If you take it away, it comes out as even. Once you've done that, make sure you send it in to your teacher, because there's a lot that we can give you in terms of feedback for this lesson, because rather than us going through all the answers when there's so many different possibilities, it will be easier for us to look at what you've done and give you feedback that way. Okay guys, so that is maths for today. Join me tomorrow for our last recorded lesson, and it will be another problem solving lesson.